Wow, do we have some breaking news? Trump raises tariffs on China to 125%. Insanity. However, Trump also has now paused new tariffs on every other country for 90 days because they did not retaliate and lowers reciprocal tariff levels. This is really good, and I think this does show that Donald Trump and his administration, they are able to make deals right on the dime at the last second, and they are responding to the markets. Now, let's see exactly what Donald Trump has to say, because again, this is going to be rather interesting. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Again, so the point that Donald Trump is trying to make is, hey, we all need to work together. This is not only USA versus China, because if the USA is getting screwed over on some deals, you guys are also getting screwed over on deals. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I have authorized a 90-day pause, which is good, and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%. Also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So again, this is really good news, and I really do think this does break the narrative that Donald Trump is just destroying our partnerships and destroying everything the U.S. has worked so hard for with our allies. Now, the question is this: will allies respond as far as, you know what, we all need to work together? China really is screwing us all over, not only the United States. That's the big question. Let me know how you guys feel about this down below. And look, you can't make this up. Look how reactive our stock market is whenever Donald Trump makes an announcement. Now again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know if Donald Trump was doing this on purpose, waiting for the perfect moment in order to make this announcement, because he could have done it yesterday, and we saw yesterday the stock market went up and then it went back down, but now we are going back up. One thing I want to show you guys is this. Overall speaking, the United States is still in a very good position, despite, yes, if you want to call it a stock market crash, we can call it a stock market crash, but overall, there is still a very, very high position with the United States compared to the rest of the world as far as the economy. So again, we are seeing a very, very reactive stock market. This is not always a great thing, because this means if one other country decides to react to Donald Trump and impose their own tariffs, this could also go down. But one thing this does show us is that China does not have all the power they think they do. Despite them throwing more tariffs on us, despite them saying we will fight till the end, this right here is an indicator that the United States has a lot more power than we think it does, or what Democrats are saying about the stock market.
So, Ambassador Bolton, I know you're not an economist, but just from a strategic perspective, do you think China is going to blink and try to cut a deal with the White House?
It certainly doesn't look like it, but what Trump is doing is a huge opportunity for China worldwide. These tariffs are a form of economic illiteracy. Trump has no idea really what he's talking about. He doesn't understand how tariffs works. He has said as recently as a few days ago he views trade surpluses and deficits as like a profit and loss statement, which they certainly are not. So what he's doing has put us in a very vulnerable position, and probably in the worst position possible to go after the real country problem in the international trading system, which is China. Instead of taking on the country that's stolen our intellectual property for decades, among other things, by gathering our allies together, all of whom also suffer from China's intellectual property theft, and engaging in concerted action, we're at war with our largest trading partners while we're about to go to war with China as well. It simply makes no sense, and it's just sad and depressing that more Republicans haven't stood up and said that. This is illiteracy.
Man, talk about eating your own words. And obviously, this is the constant rhetoric towards Donald Trump. You'll see this like sleight of hand of, yeah, China is bad, but what about the rest of our allies? Very recently, CNN put out a new poll that 88% of the country thinks Donald Trump is doing things different. We are not used to this almost self-sabotage of making other countries suffer like the US has been suffering and pointing out, hey, just so you know, we should all be working together. Now, for anybody who's ever been to like basic training or a military setting, this is how it works. We all suffer together, but then we all band together and realize, you know what? We actually have a lot more in common than you think. And how long have we been talking about China? Every single country in the world. The biggest issue is this. If we would have done what John Bolton is saying to do, to, passively talk about China, China can do what the US just did. China can isolate all of these countries and say, you know what? Top tariffs on you, top tariffs on you, and top tariffs on you. And these countries cannot survive. And then the United States would have had to bail them out anyway. So again, this is definitely a very risky way of working with other countries, but clearly it's working. Now, again, if you are a Republican or conservative, and I'm not going to do this either, don't get overly excited, but still, we are seeing positive trends, and that's a good thing. And we are also seeing 90 days of mercy. 90 days is plenty of time to figure out whether or not you're going to do a zero for zero trade deficit, or whether or not we're actually going to do this and we're going to go after China. Again, going after China means getting a better deal because the U.S. still does need China for the time being, and so does the rest of the world. They are an economic powerhouse, and they do bring some value to certain things, but overall, the numbers are just proving over and over, the whole world, man, we've been getting played by China, and now we have the numbers to prove it.
I watched on the evening news last night, one of the other networks, and I watched the issue of lumber. Now, you see, we get so much of our lumber, our 2x4s, from Canada. What's where we get it from? Canada. We get our newsprint from up there for newspapers. The fact is we get it. What are we going to do? Have more lumber made in the United States now? What is our plan now? Oh, we're not going to import wood, so we're going to make more wood? We're going to create more wood? Is that it? I don't think we are in a position to simply replicate the imports coming into this country with our own products. It can't always be done. And I think if a wood's example of that, wood. Are we going to make more wood in this country because of our trade deal? I don't think so. I watched on the evening news last.
Now, one thing I do want to point out and why this clip is so hilarious. First off, this is very insulting to the audience, once again, from MSNBC, and very misleading. Are you trying to replicate wood? I'm not even trying to be smart here. We actually have a lot more wood than people think, but we're not saying, and by we, I mean the Trump administration, is not saying they're trying to recreate the wheel here. They're trying to totally wipe away the trade deals amongst Canada and other countries. MSNBC knows better than everyone else. The deal is the Trump administration, they want more fair deals. Trump has already admitted, we love Canada, we want to work with Canada, but if you are our closest ally, let's take a look at these numbers real quick. What is going on? Looking at Norway, why do we have 300% imports on cheese? Looking at Europe, why are you giving us a terrible deal? We have fought side by side with you guys for a very long time in these conflicts. Again, actually, Vietnam tends to get a pass on a lot of these things, and even Vietnam is saying, we are willing to go from 90% to 0% tariffs. But again, the point here is very misleading argumentation from MSNBC and other left-leaning outlets trying to make Trump look terrible, trying to make anybody who supports this look terrible. Again, for Republicans, this is a brand new position because Republicans don't even know how to argue this position because Republicans are for free trade, but now things are changing. You can be for free trade, but it's gotta be a fair deal, and that is what Donald Trump wants, and that is what the majority of Americans want, except MSNBC is trying to conflate this by coming up with these very, very weird surface level, what are we gonna invent wood?
Senator Elizabeth Warren, along with several other Democrats and Republican Senator Rand Paul, moving to force a vote on a resolution to repeal the president's tariffs by canceling the emergency declaration used to justify them. In a Financial Times op-ed out this morning, she is making her case for more Republicans to join her efforts. Senator Warren joins us this morning. She is the lead Democrat on the Banking Committee. And Senator, in the past, you have gone along with tariffs, maybe targeted tariffs. What's different about what the president is doing right now?
So, look, I think tariffs are a very important part, a tool in our economic toolbox. But they have to be used in a way that is targeted. We have a specific goal. We are bringing it in with a timing that makes sense, so we're going to be able to manufacture things at home. Take, for example, the pharmaceutical industry. Right now, you've got a 9 out of 10 chance that when you have a prescription filled, that it was made somewhere overseas, probably Asia, and the materials for it came from China. That puts us in a vulnerable position. So using tariffs as part of an integrated strategy to get more pharmaceuticals manufactured here in the United States makes sense economically, makes sense strategically, but that is not what Donald Trump is doing. By putting across-the-board tariffs with virtually every nation on virtually every product with no planning and no rhyme or reason to the numbers is just creating economic chaos. And when there's economic chaos, no one wants to make investments in the United States to build more manufacturing, to build more good jobs here in America.
Are you hearing from businesses at this point? What are their constituents? I mean, it's an unusual place to find businesses maybe running from Republicans and running to some more progressive Democrats seeking cover.
You know, we're hearing.
Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Pretty much for the last several days, all of these talking points have been pretty much a complete waste of time because now we are on a 90-day pause, and now we do have a ton of countries who are actually willing to make a deal. So hopefully this does all work out. I hope Democrats are actually happy this is happening, but as far as China concerned, boy, did this backfire on them. Thank you guys for everything, and God bless.